Hello lovely peeps, here we are again. So thanks everybody so much for joining, and we're going to do a little mini live today. So welcome everybody, and thanks for joining. I'd just like to address some of the questions that have been swirling around about how much protein we should have. And I know that we did address that in the live last week, but I thought we could talk about it a little bit more today and hopefully make it a bit clearer. And also, I'd like to say for all the people, all you lovely people who have successfully transitioned into phase 4 and to the forever phase, congratulations to you. So I'm just going to recap on some of the things, the amazing things that have changed in your bodies since you first started doing HBD. And I hope this will also inspire you if you're just starting out, or if you're in the middle of phase 3, or still in phase 2, whatever stage, or in phase 4, as I was saying. So I hope this will help. As I was saying, just some reminders about what you've changed and what you've achieved over the past few weeks, at least 10 weeks, obviously, before you move from phase 3 into phase 4. So 10 weeks is the minimum. And if you're not yet in phase 4, thinking about what you've got to look forward to, how these amazing changes will affect how you feel, how you experience life, the energy you have. So I've got a list here. This is what happens by the time you get into phase 4. As what happened. You've retrained your body to burn fat rather than carbs or sugar for energy. You've reduced the inflammation levels in your body. You've reduced the inflammation by eating wholesome, minimally processed foods and by having 5-hour fasts or more between each meal. You've nurtured your friendly microbes, and you've done that by getting rid of the excess sugar, ultra-processed foods, and eating more fresh vegetables and herbs, and by fasting between meals. And as we know, what's good for our microbes is good for us, so we better look after them, and they'll look after us. You've calmed your immune system down. It's less hyperreactive, and more focused on real dangers like viruses. You know, that's what our immune system is for. It's for healing us from wounds and whatever else, and also protecting us against bacteria and viruses. But as we know, and as lots of people have joined in and told us here, there are a lot of people with autoimmune disorders with us, and that means that the immune system in the body has got hyperreactive. It's reacting indiscriminately against things it shouldn't be reacting to. So even if there isn't any autoimmune disease, our immune system is calmer, which is really, really good thing. Your digestion feels better. You're no longer bloated. You're much more regular. And you know, thinking about digestion, it is such an important part of how we feel. And it helps when everything's working properly, we do feel lighter and more energized and generally better. So it's really, really key. You've become metabolically flexible. You can now switch between energy sources. If you've just got protein and fats, you can burn protein and fats for energy. If you haven't got the protein and fats but you've got the carbs, you can still burn the carbs for energy. So that's got to be good. You've got your blood sugar levels back under healthy control. Really, really key, really important. You've lowered your insulin levels, and at the same time, your cells have regained their sensitivity to insulin, which is also a good thing. Your brain is resensitized to leptin. Leptin, you remember, is the hormone that says we've got enough energy. When our brain loses its sensitivity to leptin, we feel hungry all the time. And as we know, one of the main and most important ways of resetting leptin sensitivity is to eat breakfast, a protein breakfast, within an hour of waking. So having been resensitized to leptin, your brain is no longer searching for food. You're no longer hungry all the time. Your concentration is better. The brain fog has gone and you feel clear. And you can go for hours with great energy. You're never hangry anymore. And hangry, as most of us know, is a combination of hungry and angry. And because we've got our blood sugar levels under control, because we're resensitized to leptin, because our insulin is under control again, our energy is much better, and we can go for hours without food. And that's normal. We should be able to. Talking about energy, your energy has returned to the peak levels that you enjoyed in your youth, something that many of us thought that we'd never joyfully experience again. And not only that, but your energy is more stable. No more peaks and troughs. It just feels great, most of the time. Your sleep is deeper and more refreshing, and very often, nearly always, you don't need an alarm clock to wake you in the morning. And finally, I'm sure there are lots and lots of other things to say, but you're back to being who you really are, who you were originally, because everything has rebalanced. And it's a question of saying to yourself, welcome back to me, welcome back to you, which is very, very exciting. So those are all the changes and things that you've got to look forward to in phase 4. If you're already in phase 4, you will be feeling those things and feeling really happy about that. And the main thing, or one of the main things and the big thing to keep in mind, is that you've done this, you've achieved all these changes without ever counting a single calorie or a single macro. You know, macro is a carbohydrate, a fat or protein, and how many grams we're getting of any of those. So that's pretty dashed cool as well, dashed cool. You've simply been eating good quality protein and vegetables and a little fruit. And every calorie, every bite of food that you've eaten has been fresh, wholesome, minimally processed. And all those foods take us back to great health. Yes, food is medicine. You've been eating the foods that your body, that your DNA recognizes as medicine. And of course, you've been having a potentially somewhat poisonous but joyful weekly treat meal, of course, a very important part of the program. So coming back to what we started with, which is how much protein do we need? Do we need to count macros of protein? How many grams of protein per kilo? No, we don't. Because how much protein we need is pretty arbitrary. It's definitely not a one size fits all. Like, you know, all of us don't have size 5 feet, and all of us don't have the same requirements for protein. We have different protein needs depending on our age, our activity levels, and our overall health. It's really important to bear that in mind. And also do revisit the book, the protein section in The Human Being Diet, the 2nd edition, which is all about complete versus incomplete proteins. So animal proteins are the best kind of proteins, other than tofu and tempeh. So soy protein is also classed as a complete protein. It means that we can actually use that protein, the amino acids it contains, as the building blocks for making the proteins that we need in our body, for our muscles and our hormones and our skin and our hair and everything else. So coming back to how much protein do we need? See what you think of these questions. Are you recovering from surgery or an illness? Are you trying to build muscle? Are you pregnant? Are you a weightlifter, a wrestler, an athlete? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you're not going to be following HBD anyway. Please don't worry about protein in phase 2 and phase 3. Trust the process and feel confident in the knowledge that you are getting enough protein. This isn't forever. This is for rebalancing. It's until you get into phase 4, however long that might be. It might be your 10 weeks in phase 3, or it might be a bit longer, depending on your goals and how much weight you'd like to lose. But once in phase 4, this is the time to experiment with adding more protein to suit your exercise routine and your goal. And all good trainers are very clued up about protein, and they will be able to work with you on what your goals are and how much protein you need to achieve those goals. Take their advice. Don't get hung up on how many grams of protein you think you might need. Just follow the program. Eat the correct weight of protein foods and the correct weight of vegetable foods, and all will be well. Because, you know, there's no hard and fast rule about protein, and I didn't really want to mention numbers, but people talk about 0.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight to about 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But you don't need to do any of that. Just keep it really simple. Stick to HBD, stick to the rules, and all will be well. So I hope that's helped. And do also, like I said before, reacquaint yourself with what makes a good protein in the Human Being Diet 2nd edition. And know that plant foods other than soy, so tempeh and tofu, are incomplete proteins. So things like nuts and seeds and everything else. Not ideal, but of course they make a very nice breakfast. But also talked about this last week. You pick up a packet of something like almonds and you see on the label it says contains 18 grams of protein. You're not going to be absorbing 18 grams of protein. It will be much less than that. And the other thing that of course affects protein absorption is, are we stressed? Are we making enough stomach acid, hydrochloric acid? Are we sitting down and getting ourselves into the parasympathetic arm of the nervous system? When we're relaxing, we should be relaxed and feeling peaceful before we start to eat, and that way we maximise not just protein absorption, but we maximise our digestion in general. So I hope that's helped, and I can see that there are a few questions, so let's have a look at those. Pandemonium 2396, phase 2 reset. What's the best thing to do if you're late having your first meal at midday? I know it's very annoying, but the thing is, don't be late. Prep like a boss, as Mrs. Outobasket would say, and don't let yourself be caught short. Imagine that you had a really good friend and you wanted to support him or her on their goals with HBD. Well, you wouldn't say, well, just go out and I'm sure you'll find something you need to eat. You'd probably make a meal planner. You go through and make a meal planner with your friend, look at all the foods that are advised for phase 1, 2, 3, and you'd help that friend. So really, there's no solution for if you have your first meal at midday, because that's not following HBD. Following HBD means having your first meal of the day within an hour of waking when you possibly can. Sometimes it's a bit tough, but definitely early in the day. And then 5 hours later having lunch, and then 5 hours after that having food in the evening as well. So another question, I take supplements, milk thistle, I can't read that, sorry, echinacea I think, magnesium, etc. Should I take them during the programme? Yes, you can. Do continue with your supplements. Safe supplements are supplements that come as capsules or tablets. Less safe supplements are the ones in powder or liquid form. So do make sure there isn't any sweetener or any flavouring added to those, and then yes, absolutely you can continue to take them. Can I have collagen drinks during phase 3? Another question we get asked a lot, and I did do 2 lives, so do have a look back at them. They're both on my grid about collagen, and really if you find that the collagen helps, then yes, have them with meals. Make sure that your collagen is unflavoured, unsweetened. Personally, the only collagen I really rate is the Ingenious one, and I would take 3 capsules of that at bedtime, which is when we need the collagen the most, because that's when our body is in repair mode. Why is cottage cheese not allowed? It's a very good question. I eat cottage cheese now, I'm in phase 4. It's because it's a minefield of low fat and high fat, and it was complicated enough getting the rules right for the yogurt. And so please just cut out cottage cheese for now. Don't have cottage cheese for now. You can have it at treat meals, of course. I know it sounds patronising, but it's just a bit too complicated. The other thing about cottage cheese is that lots of us in the HBD gang are in our 50s and 60s, and cottage cheese was very often a common diet food that we might have got to dread because it's low calorie, high protein, all that kind of thing. And we're not looking for low calorie, we're looking for good amounts of fat and good amounts of protein, and of course balanced with good amounts of healthy fresh vegetables. So I hope, as I said, that that's helped. I hope it hasn't made things more confusing. I hope that you feel relieved that you don't have to count calories and you don't have to count macros. You just follow the weights in the book and everything will be well and everything will work as it should. And all the people who have successfully transitioned into phase 4, none of them were counting macros. They were just following the advice in the book, and there's no mention of macros there. So just relax in the knowledge that what you're doing is going to get you to where you want to go. Just see if there's another question here. I'm using Simprove but still bloat after eating anything. Well, what you could try is digestive enzymes. A very good one made by BioCare, it's called Polyzyme. And I'd like to know, were you bloated after eating before HBD, or is this a new thing? So let us know. Hi, if I can't go the full 5 hours and get into 4 to 4.5, will that make a lot of difference? It will. Obviously, if it's once in a blue moon, it doesn't matter. But yeah, you need the 5 hours between meals. And remember that the 5 hours are counted from when you finish eating. So you finish eating your breakfast at 8:30, then you count 5 hours, which is lunch at 1:30 or after 1:30. It's really important. If you want the best results, stick like a limpet to the programme. Follow every single rule and you'll be set for success. But, it's very tempting to think, well, it's much easier for me if I have breakfast a bit later and lunch a bit earlier, but just try to really stick to the programme and it works, as lots of people on here will tell you. So I'm going to leave it there, and thank you very much for joining, and thanks everybody for answering the questions and for your questions too. Bye.